Hello again. Alright, we're going to continue on our discussion of tools, and now we're going to talk about the brush tool. Go ahead and select the brush tool right here. You can right click on it and notice that there's also this pencil tool and color replacement tool that lies underneath it. I never use either of these bottom two. I'm always just using the brush tool. And while it doesn't immediately seem apparent why we might use the brush tool as landscape photographers, at this point in time we won't, but later on when we get into the intermediate lessons and start talking about masks, the brush tool will become very, very useful when we're dealing with masks. So let's go ahead and talk about it up here real quick. Again, you can adjust the diameter here, the hardness, and again, hardness is the edge. Is it an abrupt edge of the brush tool, or does it feather out gently and softly into the surrounding area? A hardness of 0 is a very soft feathered edge, and a hardness of 100 is an abrupt edge. 25 seems to be a pretty good edge for a lot of the applications and a lot of ways I use the brush. Coming along the mode, I've never taken the mode out of normal mode from what I can remember. I'm always using the normal mode here. Now, opacity and flow, you will want to pay attention to these. I leave my flow at 100% all of the time, and my opacity when I'm working on my masks will vary anywhere from 1 to 2% up to 100%. Let's just show you what these two mean here. So we could work directly on the background, but again, it's always best to work on a layer. So we'll come down here and click create a new layer. And earlier we selected the color yellow out of these trees right here, and again, that is the color that we're going to be painting. So if I click and drag, that is applying. I'm holding down the mouse button and just painting around here. That is applying 32%. And notice it doesn't matter if I go back over the area. As long as I'm holding down on the mouse button at one time, it's applying 32%, and that is it. Now, if I let go of the mouse button, which I just did, and then push the mouse button again, it will apply another 32%. And as long as I hold it down, it's just going to apply 32% again. So where I've just let go again. So now where I've applied it twice, it's a little darker, and where it's only been 32, it's not that dark. It's not that heavy. Okay, now let's show you what happens if we start to adjust the flow. So let's take the flow back down to, oh gosh, let's say 20%. And again, we're not changing the opacity for this demonstration. So if I hold down on the mouse and move, I am now applying 20%, that's the flow, of 32%. And as long as I go in one direction and I don't overlap, that's all that I get. But as soon as I come back and start to overlap, you'll notice it's applying another 20%. And here we go, applying another 20%. We can wiggle this back and forth and build it right back up, and I'll just show you here. We're going to build it right back up now that we've come over that area quite a bit. We've overlapped 20% enough times that now it's basically 100%, and it looks just like with the flow at 100%. Again, I find that to be a really bizarre way to do things. Again, you may find in your workflow that you enjoy that, and that will work out just well for you. For me, it doesn't, probably because I'm a little bit more spastic. So I usually like my flow just run up to 100%. All right, so that's what's going on there. Because we've done this on a layer, we can turn it on and off, or we can delete the layer entirely. Let's say we wanted to choose a different color to work with, and we probably will when we work on our mask, usually be using black. This little set of buttons right down here, we hover over them, and it'll tell us the default foreground and background colors. We click on it, we'll see these change. Okay, now we've got our foreground color is going to be black, our background color is white, which means if we start to paint now, we're painting with black. If we click these little 90-degree arrows right here, we switch the background and foreground colors. So now if we paint, we're going to be painting with white. If we want to choose another color entirely, come back down over here, double click on them, and then we get this color picker. Let's just choose that color of red for fun. Let's click OK. Notice it's now red, and we'd be painting red. That's as simple as this is. And again, we won't usually use it until we start talking about masks, and then we will use our brush tool quite a lot. Alright, that's the brush tool. We'll go ahead and throw away this layer, clean our image here of autumn colors down in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado back up to the way it came in from Adobe Camera Raw. Actually, we're not quite done with the brush tool. Let's go ahead, choose a black to paint with. Let's zoom in. I'm going to use the scroll wheel to zoom in, and then I'm going to use the left bracket key, the open bracket key. Make something very small. I want to make a very small, emulate a bit of a dust speck, let's say right there. Because the next tool we're going to talk about is the clone tool. Let's come down here and click on it. And if we right click on it, we have this clone stamp tool or the pattern stamp tool. Keyboard shortcut is S. Again, as landscape photographers, I don't know how we're going to use the pattern stamp tool, but we will use the clone tool. Let's just click on it. Again, it's got some very similar features that we've seen before. Opacity, flow, sample all layers. Alright, very similar to the healing brush. If we're using the spot healing brush tool, and I come in here and I try to fix this, I'm unable to because I'm pulling in some of the mountain. So I'm going to hold Control and Alt down and press the Z key once to undo once, and I'm going to back up again to bring it back the way it was. I'm going to choose the clone tool, and again we have these are the settings I leave my clone tool set for. Again, sampling all layers. Let's go ahead and add a layer, so I'm doing my work on a layer. It can be undone. And now, again, this is going to work by, if I just try to use the clone tool, I get this, could not use the clone stamp tool because the area to clone has not been defined. You need to alt click to define a source point. So again, very much like we were seeing with one of the healing, with the healing brush tool, not the spot healing brush, the healing brush tool, you have to define the source area. So right here, I'll just define the source area as about right here. Hold the Alt key down and click. Now, if I come over here and click, and it looks like I'm not fitting it right underneath, so I'll just wiggle it around. And now I've been able to work really close to the edge of this mountain and remove something without the problems I was facing with the spot healing brush tool. Incidentally, just so to really demonstrate graphically what's going on with this, we'll zoom out a little bit, what's going on with the clone tool. Let's just say I Alt. Now we can adjust the size of this brush, again the same way we were doing before. I'm just pushing the close bracket key, the right bracket key. I can hold the Alt key down, click once, that's my sample area. So now as I come out here to the open sky, if I click and hold, we'll notice back where I took that sample, there's a little cross, and that cross is where the sample is being taken, and that is then being applied underneath the circle. So as I move it around, notice the cross is moving around, and that's where I'm sampling. And as I wiggle it around, I'm sampling where the cross is, and basically pasting whatever I'm sampling over where the circle is on the right hand side. So I can recreate that whole area up here. Again, we wouldn't particularly do this too often as landscape photographers, but that's showing you what is going on with this clone stamp tool, clone tool. Alright, we're on a layer, so we can toggle that on and off. We can Control Z to, let's toggle it back on. We can Control Z to remove this mountain in the sky. And we do have our little, we've prepared our area right there. So that's how to work the clone tool.